All right, good evening. This is your favorite coach, Coach Smith with Love the Game 24/7. Just jumping on for a brief live. I hope you guys are doing pretty good out there. And just be sure, um, you guys subscribe, do all that great stuff, hit the notification button. It's right there, right where I'm pointing. I just want to come on tonight and give you guys an assessment on the truth about college football recruiting or college sports recruiting in general, but more specifically, I'm talking about college football. And so just want to just share, my assessment from doing my camps over the past month. I've been real busy doing the camp. So I just wanted to come over here and just let you guys know some things about the truth about college football recruiting. And so please be sure you help your favorite coach out with Love the Game 24/7, guys, and help me get to my 1,000 subscribers or more, right? I want to get this content out to help as many of you, um, athletes, potential college athletes, whether you're male or female. I want to get the word out and help you guys, get the exposure, right? Teach you about how to get that exposure, how to market yourselves for those college scholarships, right? But as I always say, I'm always just coming from a college football perspective, but this is for any sport, and whether you're male or female. And so, but I appreciate you guys, who are joining me tonight, or you're watching this live, or you're watching the recording. But like I said, subscribe, hit that notification bell, man, send this information to some of your friends out there. That hey, Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 is live. Share the link, all that great stuff. And I'll be sharing some more things as well. But I'm finally just getting off the road, slowing down from doing the camps that I've been doing. And we went to Charlotte, Raleigh, ATL, the Atlanta area, Myrtle Beach. I think there's some guys finishing up in the Northeast, up in Jersey area, in Rochester, New York. But hey, share this information to your friends, and help me get to my 1,000 subscribers. Like, help me get this content out to help you you potential college athletes out there. What's up, guys? Appreciate you joining me. I noticed that some of my kids who that I had the pleasure of helping out at these offense defense camps that I did this past month, and I just want to be sure that I help you aspiring college football players out there, right? No matter your age, or you young ladies that are aspiring to get a college degree or college scholarship to help pay for your education. But I appreciate you guys joining me. But like I said, share this with those out there. Tell them, hey, Coach Smith, your favorite coach with Love the Game 24/7 is live. And I just want to give it kind of an assessment of what I've been doing with offense, defense, and the camps that I had the pleasure of being involved in, and helping these young athletes understand what it is that they need to do, and the truth about what they need to do, and make sure that they take the time, right, to do those things that they need to do to help them accomplish their dream, or their goal. This is for parents, for you parents out there as well, right, who know you got a pretty talented young athlete, just like I did with my boys growing up. I recognized at an early age how talented they were and their skill that they had at a very early age, and I just took the time to try to figure out what sports that they gravitated to, what they enjoyed the most, right? But to tell you about the truth about college football, let's get right into that. College football recruiting. Okay, things have not changed with how they measure potential college athletes, right? In any sport, right? They have certain tests and skills they're going to take you through to see where your development is, to see where you are mentally, to see where you are physically with the game, right? how fluent your body movements are for a particular sport. And as it pertains to football, they've been doing what we all know. They've been measuring you athletes by how fast your 40 time is, how well your short shuttle is and changing direction, your vertical jump, those types of things that show, how athletic you are, your broad jump, right? There are certain skills that the NFL, right, that everybody has modeled from what the NFL has done with the NFL Combine and the college pro days. This stuff has been going on for, about as long as I've been alive, right? With trying to measure, where you fit in with playing this game of college football, right? And so, from what I was able to gather from going to the camps, there's a lot of kids that need to be sure that they have some better preparation, and I think that's why today more than anything, you need to have a trainer outside of you playing, especially if you love the game, like I said, 24/7, and your parents recognize that you do have a skill in playing the game, or as well as in other sports. But as it pertains to football, they're going to measure you by these same things, your 40 and all these different things. And one thing I definitely saw at the camp, from just some of my assessment, is there are a lot of kids who don't know how to run properly, right? Because these were contact camp guys that we ran with offense, defense that I was involved in, and these were contact camps, and so and you can't come to a contact camp if you haven't done some preparation. I know some of the kids probably didn't do any training or preparation. And so just to share for you guys out there who may be listening, who attended the offense defense camp and you were with Coach Smith, the next time you come to a camp, you want to be sure you take, some of you young athletes probably had just finished, maybe a sport in the spring with your high school or middle school, more than likely, in maybe track and field or baseball, those types of things. And so you are in some sort of shape. But if you're going to go to a football camp, you definitely want to be sure you're in football condition, football shape, with the drills. And so that's why I say it's important for you young athletes to be sure, you're very talented. There's a lot of kids I saw were talented and had, the ability. But one thing that I see that is different from when I grew up. When I grew up playing Little League football, my father was a coach, and so I remember how well they taught us the fundamentals, and I don't see a lot of kids that came to this camp that know the fundamentals, and that's not to their fault. That's to the fault of the adults that are in charge of running these little league programs or middle school programs, right, or even high school programs. Okay, and so, and as a parent, you got to be on top of these things, and you want to make sure you have your young athlete at a school where they're going to get taught the basic fundamentals, right? And I knew one reason why I got into coaching was because I miss, like how I grew up, how my father, when he was a coach, when we were growing up, they taught us the proper way to tackle. If you led with your helmet tackling someone, you were going to get in trouble, right? There was a consequence. You were going to run some laps. You were going to do some push-ups. They were going to also take the time to show you and teach you with the big dummy tackling bags to show them the proper way to tackle. Using your shoulder, seeing, that you're tackling with your eyes, right, and not with your helmet. Dropping your head is one of the worst things you can do playing this game. And I saw some of that at some of the camps, and we did our best to be sure we reinforced the proper technique, right, with tackling. And so we did some tackling drills, and I'll put out some video. I'll put out some recently, and I'll put out some more. I haven't had a chance to do that. Someone said, what current generation is too soft to play football the way it was meant to be played. There may be some truth to that, but I have to fault the adults or the coaches, because one thing I recognized when I had my kids growing up, that I recognized and why I got into coaching, even at the Little League level when my kids were playing, was because I saw the lack of attention to detail with tackling. Too many coaches want to get right into their offensive scheme, teaching kids offensive plays. So the kids know that kind of stuff. They know plays, right? A coach wants to get right into their defensive scheme, all those types of things. at the little league level, as opposed to teaching that kid the basics and also helping them develop, right? The different movements in football. I mean, I know there's some coaches in Little League that did that. I remember Coach Kevin Gilbright, very well-known offensive coordinator at the Houston Oilers when I was there as a undrafted free agent with the Oilers in the early 90s. And I remember him saying one day in practice that, hey, when you get to the NFL level, they shouldn't have to be teaching you fundamentals of how you need to prepare, because you're a pro now, right? You should know what you need to do and study your plays and learn your plays, right? Because now you're really earning a serious, potentially can earn a serious income playing pro football at the NFL level, at the highest level, right? And so, but a lot of this stuff has to be taught at an early age. And that's why, like you said, I don't know if it's necessary that the players are soft. Some of that, like I said, may be because, our generation, I know we got, we let a lot of stuff, we got away from teaching the basics, right? Because these kids are very athletic and do have the ability, but you got to be able to transition from different sports. And when it comes to football, if you're going to play at a high level, if you want to get recruited for those scholarship opportunities, then you need somebody like myself, or find yourself a trainer that's going to teach you the basics, right? Because like I said, if you got to start this early. If you see that your Pop Warner or your rec league or whatever tackle league that you're playing in, parent, mom, dad, you got to be focused on this and watch. But if you got, I just realized, and I know it happens, okay? And as I even question some of the kids in my different camps, like, we all know that even side is to the right and the odd side is to the left, right? And we do, you ask some kids about A and B gap, responsibilities, or do they know you get a running back, and do you know, hey, are you a 2-back or a 3-back or a 4-back? Those types of things. And hey, do you know what, when we say 22 formation, right? When we're talking about 2 running backs and 2 tight ends, right? It's always running backs first and then tight ends, right? So you say 12 personnel or 22 personnel. Sometimes some of the kids were not really aware of those things, but more than anything, you want to teach the kids the proper way to tackle, the proper way to contact. And when you teach kids that, I don't think they're soft, right? And that's why you have to start at a young age, because this has always been a part of football. So that's something I definitely recognize in my assessment, that and why I think now it's important, and also the some of the importance of having your kid to go to a contact development camp like offense, defense. I definitely saw the need as I got more involved this year with offense, defense in their contact camp, right? And so definitely there is a need for it, because some of these coaches have to realize, stop just going right into teaching kids your offensive scheme, your offensive plays, right? But you haven't taught them how to run a route. You haven't spent enough time on teaching a kid about how to sink their hips and running a route, right? But everybody has to sink their hips, right? I don't care what position it is. Everybody has that same athletic position, right, that we use. When a guy is crossing over or a young lady is crossing over, they're in that same athletic position. Before a batter swings the bat, they're in that same athletic position, right? So the truth about college football recruiting is, if you don't prepare, if you don't learn how to run correctly and properly, if you don't learn how to run, and you can run, I'll give you an example. I had several young men that I know are, and they were high school kids. Probably overall we had maybe, for the 3 camps that I did, 4 camps that I did, we probably had maybe 15 high school kids overall, maybe a little more. But we had more elementary and middle school kids. But you need to run track. I had several young men that came that I know have the ability probably to be Division I type players that came to the offense defense camp, no doubt. And they're young, they're ninth, kid was going from 8th grade to 9th grade. We had several of those kids. Several kids I thought were already high school and they were 8th graders. Rising 8th graders, rising 9th graders. And if you're going to be, the truth about college football recruiting, if you're not in the top 300 in your recruiting class, right? So for you young athletes out there, you want to work and prepare You want to get some training. If you're not getting it at your middle school, your rec league, your Pop Warner league, or your high school, you need to get some training. You need to get a trainer, and that's why I see that is definitely those kids who are being highly recruited. You can be rest assured that they have probably a private trainer or coach or somebody working with them, right? Now there are some kids who just get it, right? Who are just talented. They have that innate ability. They just been born with it, right? Because maybe it's in their bloodline because maybe a father or mother was very athletic, right? Or both, okay? And some kids just get it, right? And there are some kids who can develop it, right? They're athletically talented, but they're a little bit behind because you do have some kids who maybe have played flag football and never played tackle football until they got to high school in 9th and 10th grade. So they're a little behind. So in that respect, you need to get some sort of trainer, especially if you were pretty decent in basketball or soccer or baseball, and now you're transitioning to some football, and you probably have a better chance of getting a scholarship in football than you do in basketball, because I know I've had that situation happen where some young men I coached and they wanted to play basketball, but it's like, hey, if you're not being highly recruited in middle school for basketball, your chances of getting a scholarship in basketball, because there's limited spots on the basketball team compared to a football team. But it's good that you did, as a young lady, a young male athlete playing basketball, because it's going to help you excel in maybe another sport, right? And so that's why I always tell you young athletes, as I told them at the offense defense camps that I was involved with, that you should play multiple sports, right? Sometimes you got to give your body a break and do something else. But like I said, they're going to always test you out in the 40. They're always going to test you out in change of direction in the short shot. And you got to learn how to not allow yourself to be disqualified when you get tested in those things. When you go to these college camps or these ranking camps with Under Armour or Rivals or 247 Sports, right? You want to be able to go and kill it. And if you don't kill it, okay, you only get so many chances. And while you're still young, it's best to go, learn that now. But as I said, I had several young men that I knew right now are going to be, if they do what they need to do, they're going to be Division I prospects. They have that ability to be Division I prospects. They're rising 9th graders and rising 10th graders that I saw. But as I was going to share, once I showed them the proper way to run the 40, okay, for their position, right? I explained to them, you're not coming here. We're not looking for you to come here and run a 4 or 5, because unless you were a rising junior or senior at the camp. And I think we only had one young man that was a rising senior that came to the camp. We had some sophomores. I don't think we really had juniors. We had more rising freshmen and rising sophomores. But the young man that was a rising senior, he came and ran at 4.8, but he was a linebacker, and he's right where he should be, right? As a rising senior for his size, he was well over 200. He was probably like, I would say, he was right around, I think, 5'11", maybe a little bit taller, 205, 210 for a rising kid out of the Atlanta area. And so the kid ran a low 4.8, mid to low 4.8 in his 40. After teaching him and showing him, after showing him where, he didn't run it that well, but initially, initially when he ran it, but after, going through some of my technique and starts that I was showing him the proper way to run it, because you're running against the clock and you don't want to disqualify yourself, and you need to go to college camps, right? It's good to come to offense defense when you're younger, early on, and to get some development and make sure you come to something like that before you hit these college camps. Because when you hit those college camps, that's your time to showcase what you got, what you have, what you're all about. Okay? And if you haven't prepared properly in enough time, because you're not going to learn this in a week, right? Or a month, right? You need at least a month or more in preparing, right, for these college camps. So that's why, like when school, your middle school and high school sports are winding down, right, in March, April, and May before school is out. If you're not playing another sport, and hopefully you should be, and that's going to help you be in some sort of condition, right? If you're running track and you're a football player, if you did track and your season is winding down, because these camps will start when the colleges end their spring football and they get ready to go in the summer, and school is out in May, right, for the colleges. You're going to have that opportunity um, to, to train and prepare to make sure you run a proper 40. So you need somebody to train you and teach you. Now there's some trainers out there that don't know how to do that, and you need to make sure you find somebody to do that. I'm not going to give you the secrets over here. You need to go to lovethegame247.com, and you need to fill out my contact form, and you need to reach out to Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 by going to my website, right? And if you want some training and you're in the North Carolina, Wilmington area, right, Raleigh, Wilmington area, right, and you want some training, I'm here, and I got a business partner of mine that was a world-class sprinter, and we played college football together, and we ran track together. Coach Pearson, he did the offense defense camps with me. He's going to be in the North Carolina area as well as I get ready to transition to Texas, to the DFW area, Dallas area, and I'll give more news about that because my son lives in the Dallas area with my 2 grandkids. So I just got back from there several days ago, visiting them and spending time with my little papa who just turned 3 yesterday, and so I just want to let you know that I will be transitioning out to DFW. I'm going to the Frisco, Prosper, Aubrey area. So any of you guys out there, hey, I got a connection with Texas. My grandbabies were born in Texas. My son was born in Florida. My daughter-in-law was born in California. So those are 3 big football athletic states right there. So I have a connection with Texas with my grandbabies being born in the DFW area. And so I'll be looking for, I'll be sharing some pop-up opportunities for you guys out there in the DFW when Coach Smith get out there. But I will still have a connection here in North Carolina, in Fayetteville, Raleigh, Charlotte area with Coach Pearson, my buddy who just relocated from Iowa back home to North Carolina. We'll be working together and training some kids, and I'll be coming, back to North Carolina as well and doing some training. But you need to get some training so you can learn how to excel in your college football recruiting journey that you're pursuing, young athlete, right? Do you think you know what it takes to prepare, to go through those different drills that the college recruiters are going to take you through, that they've been doing for years? Do you think you have what it takes, right? And if you don't think you have what it takes, you need a trainer. You need somebody to videotape you. You need somebody to teach you how to run the proper way. I saw a lot of kids that don't know how to pump their arms correctly. I saw a lot of kids that were good going through the ladders with quick feet and all those different things. But when it comes to the hip movement and the flexibility that you need for the game of football, right? I'm watching today the girls' flag football competition, the NFL flag football competition that's going on all weekend. The guys and the girls, that was great being able to watch that. Also watching the WNBA things that are coming on tonight. Make sure you plug into that, but make sure you watch some of the flag football because there's some talented young ladies and young boys out there in the sport. But you gotta learn. This is the truth about college football recruiting, guys. They're going to test you in the 40. They're going to watch and see where your development is. Now, sometimes they don't mind taking a chance on someone if they see that they can run, right? As I share with you about the several young men that I know that came to our offense defense camps that are Division I quality guys, I can see it in them. If they continue to work hard and prepare like they're supposed to and get some training, right? Because several of those guys, they ran, like I said, I'm not looking for you to run a 4.5 as a 9th grader, rising 9th grader, right? Or rising 10th grader, okay? And depending on your position, I'm looking at you running like a 4.8, 4.9, right? But we had several kids that ran the 4.7 that were rising 9th grader, right? Now, initially when they ran their 40, it wasn't that good. And I wasn't expected to be that good. But after working with them at the camp, right, because that's what offense defense is all about, developing young talent, right, to play the game, okay? That's what it was all about, and that's what you need, because we realize that a lot of young athletes out there, right, need some development, need some training on how to run properly, right? How to use your arms the right way when you're doing certain drills. And if you don't learn how to, not to be perfect, you know, it's not about being perfect, but it's about being excellent. It's about, you know, correcting your mistakes. So excellence, you'll stress your, I mean, you know, perfection, you'll stress yourself out trying to be perfect. You know, nobody's perfect. Okay, um, but you need to be excellent. And excellence means you're going to make mistakes, but you learn how to correct those mistakes. And that's what Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 is all about. And you know, is helping you correct the mistakes, helping you develop the properly, and teaching you how to run right. So some of those younger kids, you know, I was impressed with some of those kids when we showed them how to run the short shuttle properly. Right, we had some kids after showing them and coaching them up on how to change direction properly, how to sink their hips. Okay, because I saw a lot of kids not knowing how to do that. Right, and those things, when you go to these college recruiting camps or you go to these ranking camps, and if you haven't spent time in developing yourself prior to going to these things, or having a trainer show you and coach you up, because I'm telling you, the Pop Warner League and the you know, these different leagues, even middle school, they're not teaching you that. They're teaching you, you know, there's some coaches are. I'm not going to sit here and say there aren't any coaches doing it, but overall, I got a pretty good assessment because we had some kids from all across the country, right? We had offense, defense camps all around the country, and even the camps that I did here in the southeast area, right? Some kids came from, you know, they weren't just from North Carolina or the Atlanta area, but most of the kids were from the area. But we also had kids that came from out of the area as well, out of the state. And so I got a pretty good assessment. I've been around football long enough, and I've done some camps, and I've seen this. I see the same thing sometimes with the young athletes. So that's why I titled this live as "The Truth About College Football Recruiting." Okay, because some of you guys don't know what you don't know, and some of you all may have some potential to go to either the Division I or Division II level or NAIA, right, or even maybe junior college to the JUCO level, because there's some JUCOs that are pretty much Division I level talented kids, because that's where a lot of them end up. And a lot of the kids who get sent to the junior colleges are sent there by some Division I programs to help the kid get their academics in order, and you know, not necessarily their development, but maybe their academics. You know, they need to go to a JUCO for a year or two. So it's a whole different beast. You got to be a whole different mindset, man, because that playing junior college football, you know, you can't be weak-minded, right? Those kids at the JUCO level are ballers, okay? So if you don't have to go that route, you know, then do what you need to do. Get a trainer, right? Learn the truth about college football recruiting with Love the Game 24/7, right? And like I said, I'm going to be doing, you know, I'm ready to train some of you guys out there. You can hit me up, right? You can email me. You can get to all my social media platforms on my website, lovethegame247.com. You can contact me if you're here in the Wilmington, Raleigh, you know, Fayetteville, Laurinburg area with myself and Coach Pearson to help train and help you guys get developed. And so as you get to that high school level and you're in the top 300 in your graduating class nationwide, you can be rest assured you're going to get yourselves a scholarship opportunity, right? And you definitely got to be in the top 500, because then you have FCS and Division II opportunities. Okay, and I tell people a lot of times, stop worrying about the transfer portal thing. Okay, you know, you focus on what you can control. Focus on your development. Focus on getting the trainer and getting the proper technique on tackling drills, on how to sink your hips, how to run routes correctly, the different drills you need to do to catch the football, because we catch the football with our eyes first and not our hands, but with our eyes. Learn how to use a defender, a DB that's trying to distract you and take your focus away from catching the football by putting their hands on you and doing some things. Sometimes they don't, you know, it's a legal contact, and sometimes it's called and sometimes it isn't. But are you going to let that affect you, or are you going to learn how to make a play regardless if a penalty is called or not? So those are things that we teach you and help you focus on, right? Teach you certain DB drills that you need to learn, right? O-line and D-line drills, or linebacker drills, understanding what cover 3 and cover 2 and where your responsibility, you know, is at a certain position. If you're a strong safety or outside linebacker, or if you're a corner and we're in cover 2 and you have 12 and under in the shallow to the flat area when you're in cover 2, and when you're in cover 3 you're in deep thirds, right? And so those are things that you young athletes need to grasp at an early age. And I learned that stuff, man, when I was in elementary school, when I had, my father as a coach, and other people that, that were a part of that league that I grew up in other leagues that we played against, we were taught those things early, and it does help your confidence. It does help your playing ability. Everybody's going to be nervous or a little bit, scared at first, right? I was when I started out playing football, but when I learned the proper technique, right, after getting hit and banged up and all those things, and realizing, hey, this ain't too bad, right? This is kind of fun, because now I'm growing, I'm developing, I'm getting bigger, I'm getting stronger, right? I'm making plays, and now that builds your confidence, right? I've had to deal with injury at a young age, like a bruise, forearm as a running back, and things like that growing up, and you learn how to deal and work through feeling some pain, but still, hey, it's not affecting me from being able to still play the game because I have a little, minor little, pain or injury or something like that. Not, nothing major. So you learn those things, right? But I just saw a lot of kids in my assessment that are missing the basic developments of playing football. And if you don't learn the basic developments of football, then you're not going to get recruited in college football or maybe earn that scholarship that you're dreaming and hoping about, right? And moms and dads out there, you got to be sure that you do your part, right? You take an assessment of what your child is being taught, right? Are they just jumping right into teaching your kids plays and all those things, as opposed to teaching them the proper tackling form with not using their head and keeping their head up and using their shoulder pads, because that's why we have them. We use our shoulder pads. We can use our forearms, but hey, sometimes you may want to make sure you have a pad on there. But you can use your forearm legally on how to block or when you're running the football. But definitely when you're tackling, how you need to keep your eyes on that offensive player's hip and know the proper technique to tackling, and where your help. If you're on that inside hip or you're the outside hip, if you're the cornerback coming in on a run play to make a tackle, because you got guys that are taking the inside hip, and if I'm a cornerback, I never let anything get outside my outside shoulder. I never let a running back break a run on the outside shoulder. So I should never, as a DB, come inside to make a tackle. I should come from the outside in, right? All those different things I learned at a young age growing up. So by the time I got to high school and college, and definitely by the time I got to the pros, I was able to excel and reach those levels because of what I was taught at a young age, and the training and development and preparation that I went through, that I was taught at an early age, how I need to prepare to play the game at a high level and be successful at the game. And so this is the truth about college football recruiting that you need to learn now at a young age, and why offense, defense, and what they offer with some of their contact camps are some good things, to be a part of. And I know some of the colleges have done it, right? And there's some other, people that do contact camps. But I know some of the colleges do it, or have provided it. And so you need to do these things for your child, and find these and do your homework. Like I said, you stay in contact with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7. I'll be, involved with some things like that as well myself, in putting on and providing some of those things. Just like, I did my camp this past March, my camp that I did, that I had mostly elementary and middle school kids. My goal is to do it again, and hopefully do it in Dallas with my son and some other NFL talent that I'll be able to help provide and get out there to help coach and teach you young athletes out there. And also we need to be sure we look at the young ladies with the flag football as well. But I plan on doing my camp again in March, right? Because you guys need to have this opportunity before the camp start in May. They have the college football camps May through July. And so you got to spend some time learning those skills, learning how to run the 40-yard dash the proper way, learn how to run the short shuttle the proper way. These are the things that they're going to measure you by. These are the things that they're going to rank you by, right? Also having some good game video, right? You can have some decent game video, but if you're excelling in your 40 time for your age group, right? You're excelling and you're one of the fast kids for your age group, for your class, for your graduating class, in the 40-yard dash, in the short shuttle, in the broad jump. If you are at the top level, you're going to get a high ranking, right? When you go to these rivals and Under Armour camps that they come out with, and usually sometime in mid-March to late March, in April, when they do these ranking camps for your class, your graduating class. So you want to be sure you come to Coach Smith camp, development camp, on how to run the 40 the proper way, right? I'm going to be doing a free webinar talking about my services that I'll be providing, and then I'll be sharing for you guys an opportunity on how you can join and be a partner or a subscriber with Love the Game 24/7. So, but yeah, I just want to come on here for briefly, just to get my assessment, man. So there are a lot of you young athletes out there that are, um, are needing. I would say most you young athletes are needing that opportunity. There's a few kids that get it, right? And there's some kids, like I said, that are getting trained and they are excelling, and you got to be a part of that top 300 in your class, right? In at least the top 500 in your class. But definitely, if you reach that top 300 in your graduating class, as you continue to matriculate and grow up through playing, Pop Warner, rec ball, whatever, middle school ball, high school ball, and now it's time to be sure that if you've developed yourself properly, if you got the proper training, right, from your coach, you will be potentially one of those kids that would be in the top 300 in your class that will get that scholarship opportunity. I saw a lot of good young kids in elementary age and middle school age that have it, that have the skill, and they just got to keep making sure they get developed, right? And so we had some kids in the low, elementary school kids and middle school kids right around like 5'6", 5 flat, 5'1" in the 40-yard dash, and that's right where some of them need to be at their age, right? As far as being elementary school kids, running like a 6, low 6, right, mid 6 in the 40-yard dash. I had some little kids, man, that surprised me with their times in the short shuttle. That they just got it, they just understood it, and they did a good job. But that 40 is what they're really going to test you by, right? That 40-yard dash is what's really going to get people's attention, and that short shuttle. But of course, it's that 40-yard dash, and you got to get that. You got to get that skill, right? Because you're going to disqualify yourself, and your ranking is going to be not where you feel it should be, or where it could be if you get the proper training and learn the proper technique on how to run the 40-yard dash, on how to run the short shuttle, on how to do the broad jump, right? And the kind of weight training and weightlifting training you need to do to help you build your core and build your muscles up, in your legs and all those different things that you need to do. So these are the things that with my service with Love the Game 24/7 that we'll be providing for you young athletes from elementary all the way up to your high school, going into your college years and even beyond, right? So like I said, if you want some training and you're in the North Carolina area, you need to hit me up. Or if you're in the DFW, Dallas area, you need to hit me up. Go to my website, lovethegame247.com. Hit that subscription button. Make sure you subscribe, right? Make sure you share this video. If you're watching it live, I appreciate you joining me. Appreciate you guys. And be sure to share this information with others that you know out there. But this is telling you the truth about college football on how to get recruited and what they're going to look for. This is something that's been going on forever, and they're not going to change, and they don't need to change it. These are things that you just need to get coached up on. You need to get some training on, and do your best to help your development. And you got to start this thing early, okay, guys? Parents, you got to start this early, okay? And so I just want to just take a little time and just give an assessment, because I know I've been away for about a month, like I said, doing these offense defense camps as a coach, and helping with operations and some marketing and things like that. I may I'll be doing some more with them. I'll be updating you on that. But I have my own thing as well with Love the Game 24/7. So I'm more than happy to train you young athletes and helping you be where you need to be. So by the time you get to your junior and senior year and you're ranked in the top 300 to 500 in your graduating class, so that you can help yourself earn that college football scholarship that you're looking to earn, okay? And so I'm just happy to do it, happy to get on here and share but you got to put the work in, guys. Right? This is the truth about college football recruiting. Right? Those are the skill sets that they're looking for. Right? To see if you're fluid movement in your hips. Right? Do you have an issue with sinking and getting down? You know, you saw where uh, Watt got his big scholarship, his big contract, right? Boost. Um, and so you got to be sure that, you know, you look at those types of things. But if you look at J.J. Watt or T.J. Watt from Pittsburgh, when he's coming off the edge, he's not standing straight up. Those hips are down, right? You know, Garrett with the Browns, same thing. These are some of the best. These are some of the best, you know, at their position as a DN. And so you got to be sure that you watch football. You get, you know, yourselves plugged in if you love the game, right? And so this is, like I said, the truth about college football. You got to sink those hips, baby. You got to run that 40 time. You got to run that short shuttle. You got to have a broad jump, right? It's going to get people's attention. You got to have a vertical jump that's going to grab people's attention. You got to show the dog in you in your video when you're playing that game, right? You got to do that, right? You got to take the time and develop that skill. And the only way you're going to do it, because like I said, a lot of you guys aren't getting it at your Pop Warner leagues or your rec leagues or your middle school, and some not even getting it at your high school. You got to be, you know, you got to take some self-initiative. And your parents got to help you out as well in taking initiative and investing in you like I did with my own son, right? And with some of the training that I paid for my son as a quarterback, even during in season, right? You know, there's certain things you need a trainer to help you with during your season, right? On Sundays, you know, after playing on Fridays and on Saturday mornings looking at film with the high school team, on Sundays my son would go continue to do some private work at his quarterback position with his QB coach in season, right? And that was from 8th grade on. In season, there was work and things that he needed to do to get done to be sure he was in the top 300 in his recruiting class. That gave him a Power 5 Division I scholarship, right, to Boston College, and several other offers that were out there. Okay, and so there's some in-season training that you need to do, right? And your trainer need to be aware of what you should and shouldn't be doing, whether you're in season or out of season. But definitely in season, if they've been around the game long enough, there are things that they know that you should and shouldn't be doing, right? And so my son would do some throwing, you know, a little bit of throwing on Sundays with his QB coach, you know, after a Friday night game. And so, you know, like I said, he rested on the weekend for the most part, right? Saturday you got to go watch film with your team, right? With the offense or with the defense, whatever the position is, right? And then on Sunday you might do a little bit of training with your, you know, or viewing your video to help you work on what it is that you need to work on. You know, like how was your night? How was your Friday night game, right? Hey, what's up? I see you, Worthy fan. Yep. Yeah, OD camp in Clayton. Yep, I hear. Yep, that's right, Clayton High School. Yep, glad that you joined me. So yeah, I just given an assessment from you guys, man. You know, it's a lot of good talent, a lot of potential out there. But as you know, I share with you guys at all the camps. You know, you got to have great preparation. You got to get some training on how to run that 40 the proper way and all those other things. But be sure, like I said, man, you guys subscribe to Coach Smith, right? Share it with your friends, your other teammates, right? Myself and Coach Pearson will start to do some, you know, we're ready to start getting some private training in with some of you guys that parents are interested in getting some private coaching and training, even now before your season starts. And I'll also be doing something some training and personal training in Dallas myself as I get ready to transition out to Dallas, Texas. But Coach Pearson will remain here in North Carolina, even as I transition to Dallas. But while I'm still here, we're ready to get some of you guys going. If you're in the Wilmington, Charlotte, or Raleigh area, Fayetteville area, myself and Coach Pearson are ready to get some of you guys going, so you have a successful upcoming football season. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me, and like I said, I just want to jump on here and go live. I'll be going live again tomorrow, and I'll probably do some on my TikTok live and probably my IG live. I'll probably go live in the morning, around noon time, kind of giving my assessment there as well, since I'm just live today on YouTube. But I appreciate you guys joining me. Help me get to my 1,000 subscribers, or over 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys listening to this live or the recording, and I appreciate you sharing it and getting it out there to others that you know that love the game. All right. Well, y'all have a blessed evening, and like I said, I'll be going live again tomorrow on Coach Smith 27 IG, right, and TikTok. All right, man. You guys take it easy. Have a good evening.